Boy, I gotta make sure I post up your stuff from yesterday.
Hey there, welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to convert equations from rectangular equations into polar equations. So stuff with x's and y's into r's and thetas. It should be a pretty fast video, although I always say that, and it's never ever true. So it's going to be a horribly long video.
The thing about
Maybe
limits, it's a hard thing to figure out 45 when it comes to Rosetta theory.
Although I want to go
45
in depth
minutes,
with this
that's the
stuff so
limit.
you actually
I did something
understand it.
wrong.
So what
if
a
I didn't.
rectangular equation refers to is an equation that can be graphed on an xy coordinate plane. So it has x's and y's in the two variables.
It's a limit. 9.8 meters per second if you're going to do anything else with this.
So what's a polar equation? Something in r's and thetas that refer to a polar coordinate system, something with a polar axis and a theta that's referring to that polar axis, and a pole,
specifically
or
hydrogen.
looks like an origin. So we're going to convert. Basically, we're just changing x's and y's into r's and thetas. Now, why we might want to do that is because sometimes graphing with x's and y's in rectangular coordinates are very
NTF
nice.
beginning
Works
and
extremely well
on
for
X and
functions.
Y.
Really good stuff. But for things
Well,
that aren't
it's
functions,
NTF beginning.
like
well, it's
circles,
Big Bang.
ellipses,
NTF beginning,
other types
NTF
of curves,
end,
like
then
cardioids, the
modern
numbers are
universe,
functions.
first star.
They can be
However
easier
you really
graph
want to do
polar
that.
equations. So I need
NTF
to show you
beginning,
how to
NTF
convert that.
end,
Basically,
Big
there's
Bang
only
now,
two things you do.
and then there's
You
some
find
spectrums
any time
and.
that you can get an x squared plus a y squared, replace that.
And that's going to make hydrogen, and it makes iron core star, blue hypergiant, and calculus, rectangular coordinates to polar coordinates.
If not, then replace any extra, additional, or any, if you can't find this, x's and y's with. We've already done this, haven't we? This is how we can.
So you got to get Jocko in here, right? You know, I'm going to post some Jocko work inside here and be like, this is actually the land nav before Stoker at board, being 4 for us. If there was this, you and Stoker.
Non-functions, the case may be, this curve.
This is me and this. This is you and Stoker.
Then wouldn't converting equations
the you
have
and
something to
Larry,
do
the
with
boss,
converting
anybody
points?
really.
We're just doing it once and for all, and that's precisely what
And
instead of
when you
converting
do
just
one, this is the
point,
reaction.
we're converting all
You
the
might
points
say
of
that
the-
yes,
of the
I'm a
function.
hydrogen element,
Whether
you're a
it's
hydrogen
polar
element. They come
function
together in
or
a
whether it's
collision.
rectangular
Stuff's going to
polar
make some
function.
heat, light, and sound.
By
and
translating
tritium.
These functions from
Now
rectangular
also,
into polar. And
this
later on, next
may
video,
be
again, from polar to
superpositioned on the
rectangular.
graph
So really,
about
just two
being a
things that we
neutrine,
can do.
or a
Let's go-
positron, or
I'll
electron
walk you through maybe
inside
4
here,
examples on
because
how we go about doing this.
that's how
Let's
this
take a look at
polarizing
2x
wave function
squared
works.
plus 2y squared
You're going to
equals
hit
3.
beta U, beta
Now,
V.
ultimately,
lines.
what we want to do to convert from
Yeah.
rectangular to polar is use this
Squishy,
first,
Greenland.
use this when we can. We've already seen that when we were converting points, we're just going to use it here as well. So let's see if we
The
can
point
find
about
x
what
squared
this
plus y
does
squared.
is it's
If
a
we can, it might
fundamental
involve some
technique.
factoring,
I'm going to put this out of key, and I'm going to put Greenland's map right here. What's that mean? It's like, well, in the stone mill, yes, there's the office over here, mechanic shop here, here's the dump pile, and where I work over here, but the reality of the VCR schematics,
well, this rectangular equation,
do
which
it
only has
differently.
X, Y,
FMA,
R's,
Evil
Thetas,
Knievel
can be
from
nicely
vector
factored to
positions,
provide
cosmic
something that's
radiation
easily
background points,
translatable for
temperature
us.
differentials of common lines of bit code that I'm going to do on the stone mill while pulling cans. And so this portion of that is management,
Now, if we
is
do that,
operating,
and we
is W boson,
Notice that
photon,
x squared plus y squared is
strong force,
exactly
electromagnetism.
the
Sure,
Pythagorean
I'll
theorem
mix it
tells
all
us
up and
r
make
squared
figure
on a
out what
triangle
X
or
is in
here
the stone
circle,
mill.
then we can make that substitution. So ultimately,
Well, it could be
look
any
here
of them.
first,
Can you
find
word
as
it?
many of these as you can.
That's yes, that
Translate
is
to r
a
squared. So
bit.
x squared
That
plus y
is
squared, yeah, we can
superposition,
substitute r squared
up,
for
up,
that.
up, down, up, and down, relative to our line mathematically.
Now, what do you do from there? Solve it for r if you can. And the reason why we might want
Something
to do
very
that
similar.
is because it'll be easier to see
When you do
what
the
this
bit
actually
code here,
means.
it's
So if we
0
divide
and 1 in
both sides by
superposition
2,
mathematically. All hat, I think it's going to be like Bell's exclusionary, if you're doing
and
exclusionary.
we take a square root.
You got to do it this way because if we have a third person, say
Just
you
like
in the classroom,
we converted
and
our
you know that I taught one of your
polar
people,
points into our
and
rectangular points
in the
or our coordinate
triangulation
systems,
here,
and
x
rectangular
squared
we kept the
is
r positive
0,
and
1
convert
field
that
theory.
way.
Even if
We said,
we're
yeah,
outnumbered
we could make it
33 and a
negative,
third to 3
but it's
people at
easier
the
to
table,
keep a positive
we'd
r
be
and use the angle to
666,
determine where
and
we're
it's
at.
going to be
The
x
same
squared.
logic applies here.
It's the
Whether you
same
have a
stuff,
positive r or a
but we
negative
have
r,
more
you are actually
momentum,
gonna get
and
the same
talking
shape
in the
here.
field will generate
I won't ruin the
potential
spoiler
and
this time.
momentum
The shape we
better.
get does not matter whether you have a positive
0
r or
and
negative. So
1.
to keep things nice for us, we're going to keep
It's a
this
code
positive
game.
r.
this is, you could, again, look at the NSA flag outside, National Security Agency, with their code. There's a code here, code here, code here, and code here, and they increase in complexity to X, Y, and Z location of A, B, C, D, and a, what are they called, kind of code? It's a, well, Monte Poly is just A to B. A equals B, A equals C, A equals Z, and that's 1, 2, 3.
Maybe not
English,
if you're not used to
Hemingway
equations,
to Sun
and we
Tzu.
haven't really graphed them yet, but we will.
M1 and M2.
If you're not really familiar,
Redfish,
that
bluefish.
looks simpler. There's not as much junk
This is
going
the
on,
screaming
but we
waterfall.
don't really
Fish
understand
over the
what it
waterfall.
is.
You are
Think
sitting in
about
your
what R
skull
means.
screaming, but don't
R is a
kick too hard right
distance
now. It's okay.
from
We're all in the
some
black
fixed
hole.
point, we call it a pole, looks like an origin, out to where the points of your function would be.
You would have been
or
in this
the
class
polar
sitting
function in
there
this case.
being you as a student, but also free
that would
thought.
be a
And then the next
constant
second, you could
distance.
think about
There's
t
no
or
variable here.
squared
A
t,
constant
you know,
distance away from some center point.
A being t
This is giving us a
in algebra.
circle. Wait a minute.
Gives you a
R
stretch
stands
to
for
A to
radius.
t
This
and
says
1 to
your
2
radius
by
equals
x and
square root
y
of
that's
6 over 2.
graphable in
This is a
45.
circle with
And I
a
pull out all
radius
the
of
dark matter by
exactly
saying
that,
in
which is gonna
general,
give you a circle around the
factoring,
pole. That's
maybe it's a
all
rainy
that's gonna
day,
happen. It
maybe
says
it's sunny
whatever
day.
your theta is, there's no
But
physical
today,
unit. So whatever
X
theta is
covers
anywhere
the
around
speed
it,
lines of
it's gonna
both of
give you
those
a
things.
fixed
The radiant
distance,
from
square root
that
6 over 2.
globular
Whatever that
position
is,
is
that's gonna be a circle.
squared.
Now,
It's
does it
spread out
make
in a squared
sense
circle
that
problem,
this is
and
also a
it's
circle
gonna
to
n1 half some stuff. The geometry makes sense to why it doesn't, because geometry is inverted CT paradox. You're just quantifying that the geometry of this thing right here, snowflake, gonna have high probability if the machinery corrals the. So what this correlates to, get any math equation. But because this is traditionally what you'll find in art, there's different ways to get it to the block coefficient. You can't know what's motion position in the pipes. But like I said, I'm stacked up with an 8-foot board because they're 2. There's a comment. I want the 10-footers. You know, I get 8-footers. There's 9-footers in there. And so if the line is backed up that way with compression on things, yes, you might pull every board and throw it in there as they come to you, but then there's a compression on this thing starting to stack up different. And in that set, I neural net neat organizations like skipping this step to do this part of the equation first, which might be a Q1, Q2, which goes on a different pack. Slide it out of the pack because the rail's coming down. I got 4 things. I got to figure out what an 8-footer is. That's this with these 2 main beams and how I pull this one off. It's set here 1 foot, 9-footer here, 10-foot R.
If you have a little bit of anxiety around the idea of taking calculus,